Which way do I look?
Just conversation.
At you.
Yeah.
Just talking it up. Chatting with the girl.
See, now you found the zone. So everyone, we are joined here by close friend and associate, Terri Clark, legal name Teresa.
Legally, a.k.a.
So
Mom.
thanks for joining us,
Grammy.
Terri. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and mother to our very own Cole Clark, who produces our podcast and is on our team as well.
No, I love that boy.
We should have filmed him manhandling your chair where I told you he doesn't do that with all
He's
guests.
been bossing me around since I walked through the door.
He'll take the role of youngest child and play that out really well.
He has for several years.
So as he's getting squirming over there. So, well, and Terri, we wanted to sit down and talk all things real estate in the eyes of Terri, because one of the things too, and I'll pay you some compliments here, not to inflate your ego too much, but for a while there, I called you the 4-bedroom queen, because so many, especially though we serve everyone, right, with fair housing, there was especially a lot of families that needed a 4th bedroom and needed that bigger space. Yep. You were knocking it out of the park for them, and I think a lot of it was, you're great with reality checks on helping people understand, all right, if this is what you need, this is where you got to go, and this is the price you got to pay. But yeah, you really, really hustle for the people you serve.
I do hustle, and I love families and first-time home buyers. People just need a place to live.
Yeah,
they need more space, or they just need something they can afford, and it's hard. Yeah, it's hard in this town to find something affordable, something that fits their budget and fits their needs. And I really love those families.
So let's kind of maybe get very real on it right now. Do you think Flagstaff is no longer a family town?
I think there's a lot of great families here. I think the town is sort of pricing itself out where a mom and a dad and 3 kids can live comfortably without everybody working their hind ends off.
So are we there already, you think? Or we're very quickly getting there?
Well, just looking at my demographics, just looking at my family, we're there. In my family, I've got 3 teachers in the family, and everybody's working. So that's why it's so good that Flagstaff is so awesome. Our kids still want to be here.
Yeah, yeah.
And so Grammy and Gigi are still here. So, you can kind of pick up that slack and pick someone up at the park or drop someone off at school But yeah, it's definitely a 2-family.
2-income household.
Mm-hmm, 2-income.
Okay, so let's back into that. So you're saying it's still achievable on a potential 2-income household, still family affordable, potentially?
Potentially.
Yeah. Where do you think that goes? So I think a lot of people have this question. I like talking to an expert and someone that's seen through, and then we're at different phases, right? Your kids are at the point of either they own homes or they potentially want to move up and that type of thing as their families grow. My eldest is 10, right? And I hope they want to stay in Flagstaff. And it's crazy to me to think, when I run into someone that says, hey, well, I was born and raised in Flagstaff. And I'm like, man, born and raised in Flagstaff. And I look at my kids, I'm like, oh, that's exactly what they are. They're born and raised in Flagstaff, and they're going to want to live here. And so, but I guess just looking immediately in front of us here, what's your advice to people on that end? 2-income household, dual income is definitely, or if you're moving to Flagstaff, potentially consider that.
One of the families that we just recently put in a house, his wife had never worked, just been raising babies, still raising kids. Yeah. And felt like they needed to come to Flagstaff and wanted to come to Flagstaff, and she's now getting a job for the first time in 17 years. So yeah, it's achievable. Yeah. It's how bad do you want to be here? I remember you coming into the office and saying to us, anyone sitting on the fence, any policemen, firemen, nurses, teachers, the core of our community, and you said they need to jump now because we are headed up. Yeah. And that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, you just never would have seen where we're at.
Not entirely. No.
No.
I don't think anybody predicted as rapid as it would rise. No. And the other fact along with it is how sticky those prices are staying, right? Because a lot of people thought, now it's going up and, it must be coming down. And 1 year ago, that's the crazy thing is this has been going on for 12 months. These higher interest rates is basically we saw rates peak in October last year. So we're right on the verge of that 12-month period here. And yet we are seeing not a negative year-over-year number. It's a positive number.
I mean, a couple of pockets where there's been like multiple homes for sale.
Sure.
You may see things fluctuate a little bit, but the town as a whole, I haven't seen anything dropping.
Sure.
And a lot of those people, right after COVID, they were going to wait for the next great fall, and I don't see that coming. But who could have seen COVID? Who could have seen the great fall of 2008? You just never know till it's here.
Yeah. Well, and I think the harder part that we talk, and I've probably beaten this topic to death, but with a lot of folks and saying, okay, why we're at where we're at is heavily because of a shortage of housing. And this, I'm talking nationally. And the largest, did you know that this is the largest population, the millennial generation, the average age of 33 years old, and everyone's hopefully hear this because this is important, is the largest population we have ever faced in U.S. history that needs housing, rentals, home purchases, etc. And that wave, it kind of falls, it's like the next 5 or 10 years of just this massive housing need that we are in no way, shape, or form prepared for. I mean, that's where you see the big money of several months back, like JP Morgan announced that they're funding this massive hedge fund that's just picking up single family residences, right? My brother up in Utah works, and we don't have this same thing quite happening here in Flagstaff, but I know like down in Phoenix and up in areas in like Salt Lake, larger metropolitans where you have developers building entire 100-unit single family home subdivisions for build and hold.
Yep, just investments.
Not selling them.
But I did just see right before I left the house, this is the lowest, I think, the lowest that investors have been purchasing, like 7 and 10. It hasn't been this low in the last
decade plus. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think. And so
investors are pulling back, which then everyone's excited, like, oh, those home buyers that missed out because they were getting outbid, they have a chance. But now with interest rates, you've got that pullback.
Yeah, and that's more of like your mom and pop investor, right? Which are a significant demographic. I forget the stats on like institutional investment is a minority. Right. It is primarily your, everyday mom and pop investor owning a couple rental properties type of thing is actually the majority of investments. It's not big institutions.
Really?
Yeah. And so that's where those are the folks that are coming in my door, right? The traditional financing door, and those rates are high right now, and those costs are high right now. So them pulling back a little bit, kind of filling out the waters, makes a lot of sense. But it is a hard topic to tell a lot of people of, again, just like you said, we don't know what's around the corner.
What's around the corner?
We don't. If we start to piece a couple of things together, though, I do have a big concern in looking and saying, okay, Freddie Mac put out this study that basically says about 2.5 to 3 million people in the United States of America are then left on the sidelines, are priced out of the market for every 1% increase in interest rate. So if we reverse that math and say, okay, if rates do come down back into like the 5s, which a lot of experts are targeting as normal, once this inflation's over, we'll be back in the 5s. So that's about 2% less than we're at right now. Mm-hmm. Is that 5 million more people that you're competing with in this market of already tight inventory? I have a hard time thinking that we're in for some other real estate like slowdown, or also
that's exactly what we what we say. If you need a home, jump in while you can jump in, refinance when the rates do come down.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what's harder, competing against 10 people for one property again, or biting the bullet now if you can.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's miserable.
It is so interesting to just see, and it's flipped. The thing that I give full credit to folks on this, because it has been, I know there's that commentary of like, oh my gosh, rates in the 80s are so much higher. What are you guys crying about? And different times, there's definitely different times. But what I will 100% give people credit for is it was historically fast. Things have moved so fast from, bidding wars and 2% interest rates to all of a sudden, still stiff prices and 7%. And you're expected to and I have first time home buyers, like you said, that are like, this is the hand I've been dealt. This is what I have to engage. And I can appreciate that there's just so many unknowns to that.
Well, and I told Cole, we bought a house in 89 and our interest rates, I can't remember exactly, but 15%.
Okay.
Something just stupid. Brand new home, but the price was $113,000 for a brand new house.
Yeah, was this Flagstaff or Havasu?
It was in Carson City, Nevada.
Oh, Nevada.
Yeah. And then, so you could still afford it. Now, when our average home price here is $650, and could you imagine at $650 if interest rates were 50? Nobody can afford that. No. So that's the difference. Interest rates were high, but people were still buying. But it's the fact that the prices have rose up so quickly that it's hard. So
where do you find, and we're just being very, 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 very off the cuff. And I think that's the idea of this, is people are having these thoughts. And I think it's important that you and I bring these to forum here. Where do you see a lot of people making the trade-offs? Because it's a matter of, okay, if you want to spend, if you are on a single family home path, right? And I guess I should say very quickly, there's a lot of alternatives to a site-built home, townhomes, manufactured housing, condos. We talked before that and I haven't updated these stats since June, but as of June, 17% of our market was less than $400,000 homes. So almost a fifth of our market has been under $400,000, believe it or not. And that's not land, that's actual homes and real estate.
Yeah.
And that is in the city of Flagstaff. That's not full county.
Okay, well, that's going to be a 2-bedroom.
Yeah,
condo.
So, okay. So, yeah.
I don't think
you could. I've seen manufactured, 3-bedroom manufactured.
$425 now.
Depending on the neighborhood.
Okay, you tell me one.
And depending on time, it's maybe not right now, but I've seen it. Okay, so it's happened. But so if someone wants a 3-bedroom site-built home, right? Which I think that's kind of the 3-2 single stick-built home. That's kind of in the embodiment of the American dream for a lot of families. We're talking about, not to discriminate against any other class there, but really just kind of say that 3-2 perspective. Where are those people making trade-offs right now? Because if you say, hey, you're going to need to probably be over 5 on your price point, right? 500,000. Mm-hmm. Are those families opting for older inventory in certain parts of Flagstaff, like your Sunnyside areas, your Fox Glen, or are they saying, hey, I want my HGTV, I want to move out to Williams? Or we're not seeing, I don't think we're seeing a wide Winslow bedroom community just yet.
But what does Gary always say at our office? Drive till you can qualify.
So are you seeing people do that? Or are you seeing them up for more of the dated inventory, but local?
I think it just depends, Okay. I think there's a lot of rehabbing going on. So if it were me and I'm placing clients, I'm trying to keep them in town. Because eventually the folks that I've sold to out of town, as their children grow or whatever, then you're coming to town every day. So, if at all possible, I'm like, get into something in town, make it your own.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that standpoint, but I am biased on that. Where me and my wife, when we were looking and trying to see, originally she's from Mesa, and so when we bought our first home, she's like, "Honey, I can get an extra 1,000 square feet and a pool." Like, but then, and especially this summer's been a great highlight of like, you have your shoes sticking to the sidewalk, in 120 degrees. So that's great that you have a pool because it's a necessity, right? So when we were looking here in Flagstaff, and trading off like a place like Belmont and again, nothing against these decision points, but at least for our family, we're like, if I ever have to say the word going in or the phrase going into town, I just don't think we would be happy with that, especially because we were, family planning, going to have young kids that are going to be going to school and sports and everything, to say, hey, is it worth the premium to be in town? And we found that it was. So I'm not surprised to see that you're seeing a lot of folks just say, hey, I will deal with an older house, more costs and renovations and different things to just get my foot in the door, but have the commuting distance, which is, we're kind of spoiled that way. And we have to be honest on that, right? How many people in California, Phoenix, Salt Lake City or Las Vegas commute 45 to an hour?
Hour and a half. Yeah, it's crazy. And then we're complaining about the traffic on Milton.
Or what's Belmont's 20 minutes?
11 minutes from West Side Walmart.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm not kidding. I mean, you can be to Walmart, to a grocery store, 11 minutes.
So it is a balance that we really have gotten spoiled, but that is part of why people want to be here.
And there's some people that prefer Belmont because they want a newer home, and that works.
Exactly.
I have a house in Belmont, so there you go.
Exactly. Well, so I guess any other advice that you'd give to that, that move up or first time home buyer?
Move ups are tough right now because everybody is at such a crazy low interest rate.
Sure.
They just say to me constantly, yeah, I would like, but I'm not trading in this 3% rate. So I don't know. The move up market is a tough market right now. Like I don't think we've had a move up. I don't think I've had a move up buyer in a while. Yeah.
Where there was a lot of activity, and actually it's funny, as I was going through old computer files, I saw we had specifically written like full on like 5-page marketing piece for the move up buyer, and we saw a lot of that the last decade. Right? A lot of that the last decade.
Yes.
And I think and it's an important thing, I think, because you've been doing real estate how long?
18 years.
18 years.
And I still feel like I'm brand new. I think because
things just change so much.
It changes, and every deal is so different. And there's never the same situation.
Exactly.
So it always feels brand new.
But one of the things that I think is, I kind of thought this initially as I was getting into it and kind of learning, and I would say that this hasn't changed, is that the most honest that people can be with themselves and honest and realistic, the best real estate decisions they tend to make.
Right.
And so that's kind of what's hard, is I think a lot of folks that wish certain terms existed for them to make a move, but are not honest with themselves that they're going to find a breaking point at some time and make a move. It's like, no, just be honest with yourself now, make a plan, figure it out. And that type of person that could be moving up right now could find that house at a discount right now, and they're the only one or two people negotiating on this house, versus saying, oh shoot, we really, our sanity, want to be on this side of town, and have that extra bedroom, and now we're in a market where that's gone up in price.
Well, and I mean, I know I'm like old, as Cole always says, you're such a boomer, but people now, I think they want it all right now.
Yeah.
They look at the house that different people live in, and the lifestyles different people
and
have.
Social media projections.
Yeah, all the social media. I'm out here, I'm on this, and I'm doing that, and I just bought this. It's not instant. I mean, I've been married 45 years.
Yeah.
It wasn't instant.
Yeah, you're telling me, what was house number one once you guys got married?
Well, we rented. You know what we did? I told you we had a single wide, but we rented a double wide.
Nice.
In Parker, Arizona.
Did it have AC?
With a swamp cooler in the middle of the hall.
Oh, shoot.
Only in the middle. I don't even know if it had vents.
Oh, no.
And it had an add-on room. I've told the kids, it had an add-on room, and if the wind blew a lot, the 2 double front doors would just pop open.
Oh, shoot.
And it had a pool table in it when we rented it, and every ball went to one corner. The room was so crooked. And then we bought, our first home was a single wide with an add-on.
Okay.
No heat, swamp cooler. So Gary would turn a little space heater on for me in the bathroom to warm it up.
Yeah.
And if your arm accidentally bumped into the towel rack,
Yeah.
you would get shocked. And we lived like that.
Yeah.
And we thought it was amazing.
Yeah.
And then we, then we finally bought a little house when we were having babies, and we had 1 bathroom, 3 kids in 1 bathroom. That's unheard of now, but it was perfect.
Yeah.
It was perfect, but, so you can't want it all. You got to start. You have to start somewhere.
Well, I think, and it's very interesting.
Don't start in a double wide with an add-on. I don't know if Chris can lend on that.
Depending on how big the add-on is, could be tricky. Yes. No, and I think I wish I had these numbers if we were talking about this, to where I think in the last 60 years, the average home size has close to doubled.
Oh, I think back to my grandparents had 2 bedroom and a kitchen with a washer and dryer in the kitchen.
They had how many kids?
They had 4 kids and like a million of us grandkids. And it was, my sister now lives in, I don't even know, 10,000 square feet. And she says that was the best house she's ever been in.
Yeah, I love it.
It was it literally was a box.
Yeah.
That was it.
So there's all sorts of different contexts in putting that, but I think the biggest takeaway there is for a lot of folks to understand a stepping point.
Yep.
Right. And we've, getting into a home and a starter home versus the forever home.
Yep.
And I think the average, whether averages help or not, but the average real estate transactions that someone will do in their life is 8. Right. And so knowing as
average?
Awesome, buying, selling, refinancing, there's 8 kind of steps typically in someone's real estate journey, move ups, relocations. And so, I think there's definitely something to be said for that I'm totally hypocritical when I say this in my life. Wife will laugh at this just because I'm the kind of guy of buy once, cry once, and there's some value to that as well. Right. Don't buy something that you're going to want to move out of in a year or 2. Try and be at least a 5+ perspective, I'd say.
The house we're in right now, we have been there since 2005, so 18 years. Longest house we have ever lived in. Before that, it was every 2 to 3 years we would move up, move up, move up, move up.
Yeah.
We never just bought once and cried. Thank heavens. I'd still be in Parker.
Yeah. Well, and so there's value to both perspectives, but I think at least having a mid-plus term perspective, but also knowing that this isn't the end destination. It doesn't have to have all the perfect this, that, or the other. And styles change so much too. I had a friend, we're closing on his house next week, buying down the Phoenix area. And he said, hey, I need your I get excited about design, and in a second life, maybe I'll design houses or something. I get excited about it. So he's like, hey, I need your perspective on 3 different flooring. I'll show you this too. And so it's just funny to me that we had to point out there was one in the middle here. Let me show you this.
Let me see if I'd pick the one you'd pick. Cole was just sending me something a couple of weeks ago about the 90s and the Tuscan look. You remember the Tuscan look with all the Greek gods? Okay.
So one of them, to describe here online, one of them is very grayish, which was super in 10 years ago.
I know. So did you pick the natural?
No, and the natural. So I picked the one I said, if you're going to do your best job, the one in the middle ish,
Right.
like having some warm lights and browns. The other one's very pine.
Right.
Like a little, that's like 20, 30 years ago, maybe. And so, and I sent him, I'll show you this next picture here, of just like, I think what's more kind of forever proof, because this, luckily the laminate stuff they're making now does look pretty darn good. Something like that has warmish tones.
Right.
It's not overly stylistic, because I do think the gray, like what we were in an Airbnb just last week, and I was making fun of it. I've never seen the movie, but I was like, Abby, this is 50 Shades of Gray. Like
just all gray.
Yeah, from the counters to the cabinets to everything was a different shade of gray. And I'm like, it's just, and white, and it's like, it's overdone. Anyways, not to dive too far into that. So a lot of folks that get really stuck on certain styles, it's like, that's going to be in and out in no time, right? Find the house that you can make your own. You can renovate as you need to, make it your own style.
Yeah, just a few years ago, like dark cabinets, and then everything went white, and now it's so if
and
you
wood tones are coming back.
And if you try to keep up, you will drive yourself crazy, because I Instagram home designers all the time. It's so frustrating. By the time you finally get on with them, they have moved on.
Oh, they're so done with shiplap.
Yeah, and I have shiplap.
We do too.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. And black fixtures, I mean, they're still great, but now gold. I was just saying to Wayne the other day, someone was wanting to change out all the gold. I'm like, gold is back.
It's
back.
Exactly.
So you got to just find your style and the home that speaks to you, and do what makes you happy.
Priorities. Yeah. I just think there's so many different priorities where people don't, they don't, and it's best they can just know themselves, right? Be honest with themselves on what do you really prioritize. Like you were talking about, those exact same clients they were talking about knew that they wanted a certain commuting distance and a bikeable distance. And it's like, that will put a smile on your face. And you got to know yourself, right? And if you just said, oh, we want the fancy this, that, or the other, and we're going to move out to this certain area where we can get that, but then you drop all these other big main priorities, the very first thing that you're going to be saying, and actually don't you have a client who's saying this right now, of like, we're too far away from our sphere, right? We're too far away from that support. And yes, 30 minutes is not long in the big perspective of things, but when you're 10 or 15 minutes from Nana's house or something.
Well, we're all within, what are we, 2 miles?
Yeah.
From all of our kids that live here.
Yeah.
And we bought property on the other side of town.
Yeah.
And I'm just stressing. I ain't living in those woods. It just is really hard. Even though you say, what is 20 minutes? And really it's nothing. But when the kids are passing your house or the grandkids are coming over, 20, 30 minutes then it's 30 minutes back. And it's very interesting that you're talking about it that way. I've had several conversations. I have folks right now, so it's all anecdotal, but I have folks right now making a serious move up with one of the main, there's several reasons for it, but one of the main reasons is it's in the neighborhood of their friends. And that's, when they're right next door, you're borrowing a cup of sugar from them. Like, yes, you'll see each other probably around the holidays or hang out or something still with your other friends from, Ponderosa Trails to University Heights to Coconino Estates. These are all 15 minutes apart, but it's different when you're right there. Yep.
It is. It's just different.
And
it's who you do life with.
Yeah.
Right? I thought, so this is, again, completely anecdotal as well, but I saw some psychologists saying in certain studies, one of the major things that they've attributed trajectory of people is who they grew up with. Not just your parents, but who were your parents' friends, your teachers, the neighborhood. That has a significant impact on where you'll end up. And so, and even I just finished the Steve Jobs biography, and it's just very fascinating where he's just in this neighborhood with all these people working at HP and all these different guys that were just innovating in tech. And of course, he just gets all into it and, starts Apple.
Yeah. I mean, what did your mom always tell you growing up? You are who you hang with.
Yeah.
You don't want to hang with him. You are who you're going to be, who you hang with. So,
It's lifestyle. It's not just cost, right?
Yeah.
It's who you,
It's who you're with. It's
very big. And I think that's the pain point, right? Is so many people want certain things for themselves and their families. But the cost justifications, I'll fully admit, is very difficult right now. Especially like you said, if they do own, they got in the door, and that move up buyer has a lot of reasons, very low single digit, sub 3 reasons, to be staying where they are.
So they're making modifications to where they're at.
A lot of renovation happening right now.
A lot of renovations.
Pretty much any renovation contractor I'm talking to right now is a year out.
Yeah. I called to get a painter for a house we're listing next week, and he said November.
Ooh.
I'm like, we don't have, and this was in August. I'm like,
oh my gosh.
And then he jokingly said, why don't you buy my business? And I said, I don't want to work as hard as you work.
Oh, yeah.
And but anyone who does any type of service right now, they are slammed.
Yeah.
Too busy.
Yeah. It's interesting to see the shifts. And I think a lot of it was, and a lot of it too is just the up and coming Flagstaff. Because how long have you been in Flagstaff for?
23 years.
23 years. Mm-hmm. And this town has changed a lot there.
Oh my goodness gracious. Where you're sitting, this building is all, I mean, I still don't even know the names. Like when I was coming here, I turned left on Route 66. I'm like, girl, you know where you're at. But it's all, it changes. I mean, every year there's something bigger and newer and higher and taller. And
And I think that's a lot of people need to come to terms that this is a town in advanced levels of development. Which brings along a lot of positive outlook. This town's definitely going some places, right? But it's not the. And I was just thinking about that actually today as I was driving through downtown, and people are like, some of the families, like, certain families that bought large commercial entity and were like really in on that early on, and other families, and you think, man, they had it made, but you're like, that was highly speculative and probably considerably expensive even then. And to know that this would be this massive town 30 years later around that, and the value of that real estate and the value of the university's growth and everything that around this all would happen, like, it's like you're placing 30-year bets, right? And if I had to place a 30-year bet, like, I would, let's time capsule it. I'd bet on Flagstaff for sure.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, it's not the cheapest real estate in the country.
Nope. I remember you telling us talking at a meeting that Flagstaff is like the next Vail, we are that destination now.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are kicking and screaming, but you can't stop.
There's not a button.
Yeah.
There's no one person, group, so lobbyist,
you can
entity.
Be angry, or you can get on board or move out of the way.
My term that I've come up with is you can blame the sellouts.
Who are the sellouts?
The sellouts are the people selling their home for high amounts of money and probably not owning a Flagstaff. Because if I'm sure you have plenty of friends calling you too, saying, "Oh my gosh, these prices are going so high. Should I sell?" And my first question was, where are you going to go?
Well, that's exactly.
And if it's here in Flagstaff, it's not going to sell high and buy low.
You're not. No.
You will never. You and I both know an individual. This is my saddest story ever. We won't get too specific, but the individual
do I know them?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That left out of Flagstaff. Things didn't go the way they planned. Came back to Flagstaff, had sold their house and everything.
Yep.
And they had the house in Flagstaff, and it's like they are nowhere near touching the lifestyle they could have had if they kept that home.
They had several homes in Flagstaff.
We could be talking multiple stories here.
No, we're not. You probably don't know this one house, but and left twice, and there's no coming back.
Yeah.
And I've had family members leave, and I'm like, are you sure?
This is
because when you leave, unless you go to somewhere else that's just going to boom like crazy, there's no coming back.
It's tough.
It is.
It's very tough.
And that's exactly. Someone's like, "Oh man, I can get $1 million for my house I'm selling," and I'm like, "Where are you going?"
Unless you are looking at the Midwest.
Yeah, Arkansas. I don't even know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of places just haven't grown as much as the West. You know, we've talked about this in certain charts of the last 30 years worth of appreciation. We're close. We're double many other states. You know, a lot of the Midwest is only like 200% appreciation since 1991, 250. We're 420-ish% appreciation or price increase since 1991.
Well, and you talk about the Midwest versus the West, and we talk about Mesa for Abby versus Flagstaff, and I always say it costs a lot to live in heaven. And that's kind of what
gorgeous.
It is.
Right now, especially with all this monsoon rain. Oh my
75
goodness.
degrees. It's like someone said to me the other day, I was showing them property, and they were from North Phoenix.
Yeah.
And they said, so is this like what summer's like? I'm like, well, we have a couple of weeks that are maybe hit 90. They're like, what? I mean, it's hard to believe. What? When we moved up here, we bought a brand new house, but there was no air conditioning. And leaving Phoenix, coming up here with no air conditioning, you're terrified.
Yeah.
You just can't even imagine life without it.
No.
So.
Well, and even just on Labor Day, we were running late to bike club, so I had to tell them, hey, bike club, take off. And told my 9-year-old son, I said, hey, Dad'll take you on a ride. Let's just go. And so 5 minutes from the house, down on Wood Mountain Road, beautiful mountain biking single track. And with this monsoon weather, I mean, we had like hip-high flowers, like lining the trails, like wildflowers and things. And it's gorgeous. And then we did an hour bike ride, pack up all 5 minutes to the house. I mean, that's lifestyle.
Yeah,
right?
You've been all over the West. Park City maybe is comparable.
So we love to vacation there and do mountain biking there. We were actually there this last week, and we were again, trajectory and perspective here. We like to be kind of, we got, with the kids and everything, we try and be as close to the mountain as we can, because packing bikes and everything back and forth is a lot. And so we were fairly close to the mountain in this little townhome community. There was one guy who was very excited to meet us, who owned there, and everyone else. He's like, basically, this is all Airbnbs, all Airbnbs, and these, and we're talking. I mean, these properties, townhomes, probably anywhere from 2,000 square foot. So, those things were probably 1.5 to plus, right? And so it's just a matter of saying, like, perspective wise. And for them to have that type of recreation that we actually enjoy here in Flagstaff as well, and proximity to trails and nature and that mountain lifestyle and community, compared to a lot of other cities. And we're different in a lot of ways, because a lot of these other cities like Aspen and Vail and Telluride, they don't have the economy that Flagstaff has. Exactly. So they're much smaller communities. Right. But for having just about every bit of lifestyle, we're affordability cost-wise, hiking, we're still better. We're still way better. Yep. So it's all perspective. All perspective. Yep. It is. I don't know, Terri. So you thought this would be slow. How long have we been going, Cole, already? 39. Muskrat. Oh. Safe word. But any other kind of final words or thoughts for people trying to make it here? No, just don't set your expectations so high. Just get in where you can get in, if this is where you want to live. Yeah. Because I don't think it's going to get any better. Interest rates can go down, but then we can refinance when they do. Yep. And cost a lot to live in heaven. Yeah. Yeah. And I just second that. I just think there's the one biggest thing that's driving what we're going through right now that I think people just need to acknowledge is that single fact, right? It's a fact that births 33 years ago and the subsequent then 5 to 10 years are simply massive, that we just have this massive housing. I had a few in that era. So, yeah. So it's just a matter of, we have a large housing need. And that, again, we like to think that someone's figuring this all out and that there's some entity in control. It's a matter of cities and developers and builders and legislation, all this, no one's planned for you. No one's planned to help you keep housing at certain costs in Flagstaff. No one has planned that out. You have to be your own advocate and figure it out right now.
Well, and I know I do feel like what is going to happen to the core of the community. You know, I do think that, like, I don't have a solution. You know, do you have a solution? What do you do?
And that's where I'm an advocate for, I'm a big advocate for self-reliance on that. To say, if you want this lifestyle, want to live in Flagstaff, you can't look backwards and say, I wish I could, be a firefighter, move into town and buy the house that all these firefighters, I've had the conversations, you and I have had conversations with the firefighters, the teachers, our community heroes, that it's like, and I've had several of them tell me, like, I wouldn't buy in Flagstaff if the prices were what they were versus where they're at. But if you're moving and you're that new firefighter and you want to have that lifestyle, you're just going to have to figure some things out, right? You're going to have to talk with people. You're going to have to figure where that exists. You're going to have to be smarter than I think a lot of people had to be, though, like debt-wise and down payment savings. You can make it happen, but you're going to have to take a lot more of the control into your own hands.
And I think, too, I find in first-time home buyers, people don't know how little it does take to get into a home.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, I can't afford that, or have you talked to, what do you mean talk to a lender? Have you, they're just afraid of the entire process. And I'm like, it's really not scary.
Yeah.
I mean, I think of my young buyers, my young first-time home buyers, all they need is someone to just push them and say, this is what you do. This is step 1, step 2, step 3. And I just had one I ran into about 3 weeks ago, and he's like, had you not talked me in, I didn't talk him into it. Had you not encouraged me not to be afraid, I never would have done this. Yeah. And, the equity he's got in his place now is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So. And same themes, right? It's never easy. There's been certainly more favorable economic times in general. We'll give you that. But I think it's so important for people to get out of groupthink in that, to just say, oh, the sky's falling. And no, take a look at it, right? And figure it out and take that accountability of yourself to say, oh, I got to pay off some debt, or I got to save a little bit more down to make this happen. If you just continue to wait and think, woe is me, guess what? The landlord's just increasing that rent.
Yep.
It doesn't get any easier.
Doesn't get any easier.
No free lunch. So
all except for this landlord.
You're the benevolent one. I love it. Well, awesome, Terri. Well, thank you for coming on, guys. Call Terri Clark.
My pleasure.
She'll get you into something.